Hello and welcome back to Friend or Farewell! Yay! The reason why there's been a bit of a delay since the last time I did this is because I actually did attempt starting a new video, but I ended up losing a bunch of footage of a few ones I did. That discouraged me for a little while because, obviously I can't, recreate my first reactions to something, but I still want to talk about what I talked about with those. So later in the video, when I get to those ones I've already done before, I think I'll just have a more brief, quicker summary of the ones we missed. But for now, let's head on to the new stuff. With Albert Wesker from Resident Evil, which is the fastest farewell I have ever hit in my life. Oh my god, I was complaining before about the Dante guy being just a guy, but this is so much just a guy. I don't know anything about the character himself, whether he's a good or a bad character, but just design-wise, there is, nothing you can say about this design. This is, the opposite. This is undesigned. This is the most derivative design I've ever seen of anything that's ever existed. There's, no personality or genre communicated by this. If you just showed me this guy, I would not have guessed he was from, a horror game or a evil viruses science game. He just looks like the most cool military man who do the thing in Action Movie 23 in cinemas next week and every other week for the rest of time. Even saying he looks like a military guy is giving him too much credit. I would say this just looks like a generalized squash of a guy who was created to be plonked into any action movie anyone could ever possibly think of. This is a Unity default shop asset for action movies. I vaguely know from cultural osmosis who Albert Wesker is. He's supposed to be an evil scientist guy, right? He's the guy who creates the monster. Nothing about his design communicates that at all. I would not have guessed he was a scientist. I would not have guessed he was even in a horror game. If you didn't have the context about it, you couldn't even say anything about him. I mean, he's just somebody wearing a coat. 99% of the entire design is just the same colour. There's no unique traits. He's wearing a coat and trousers and shoes. He likes the colour black, I suppose. Okay, I've probably edited out, but I took a really long pause after the last sentence to look at this. And I think he's got kind of a crocodile print, a pattern on his really generic all black outfit, which I suppose that is one I wouldn't even say defining trait, because you have to really look to even see it. It doesn't even really stand out as being a defining personality trait. You'd think someone who has a trench coat which is all entirely crocodile print would look really fabulous and hammy, but because it's just the same colour as everything else, it's so generic. I'm not even sure if I'm correct about that, or if it's just some sort of pixelization error on the image. Oh, that's what he looks like. Neo! He looks like that Neo guy. He looks like Neo if you just poured paint on him. That's what I'm saying. It's every action. Where you have, a unique movie which has some sort of unique design, and then it's copied 50 bazillion times by, every, derivative thing that comes after. He looks like the 50th generation of that. Even though I'm thinking there are ways you could have done this design better, because, he really is just the same colour from his head down. Not even just from his head down, he's also got the sunglasses on. Everything he owns is the same colour. And there are ways you could have done it into, I don't know, if he's, a science guy who, does the bad science magic stuff, and he, apparently from what I know, he's got science magic monster powers, and he tests all his science on himself, and he's a super soldier of some kind. Nothing of his design communicates this at all. But you know what would have been an interesting way to have that concept with this? Literally make him all black crocodile skin from the head down. Or have it thematically be he starts off just being a guy wearing a boring black costume, and then later on when he takes his boss form, he's a cool black spiky guy. I'm really struggling to think of ways to unbadinate this. It also really gives me a vibe I could kind of mentally date what time this design would have come out entirely based on the ways it sucks. It seems like a late PS2 or early PS3 era kind of design. early PS3, not late PS2. Late PS2 had the problem of, like, realism is brown and bloom and everything like that. Sort of lazy graphic designers would just be like, we're gonna throw in, like, the latest technology rather than making any sort of actual design out of it, and just having the latest technology will make it good, and then defending it by saying it's realistic. But, like, none of these things are ever actually realistic. That's why the trope name was realism is brown, because it would be people who would, like, test out the fact that we can have, like, really detailed shading by making everything look really brown and dark and really hard to see what's even going on, and they'd say it's realistic because hypothetically that technology could be used to create actual realistic lighting, but they just didn't. They just thought more of it makes it more realistic, and, like, never once, like, walked outside, looked at the window and went, wait a second, I might have made a mistake here. And then we had, like, early PS3 era, which had the problem that we've got here on this particular design. It's, like, lack of colour in every possible way, because you just look at him, it's so weird. Like, he's got blonde hair, and he's got white skin, but every colour in this design sort of blends together, because the shading on everything is, like, really, really grey and washed out. Like, at first, I genuinely couldn't tell what his hair colour was. Like, I couldn't tell if that's, like, bloom on the top, and it's, like, if it's like, brown or dark, or if it's just, like, really shiny. Like, that's probably, it was just genuinely hard to tell whether, like, a colour actually is a light colour, or if it's just a shine on, like, I was never feel like making everything look really overly metallic and shiny, even when it's meant to be skin or something. So this definitely gives me the vibe of that sort of era of gaming. I don't know, maybe this guy would look better if he was just, like, drawn or rendered in a different art style. If there was more of a contrast between, like bright blonde hair and then, like super dark outfit or something, or, like, if in another art style you added, like, any kind of accessories or patterns to his outfit that, like, broke apart the constant, just everything the same colour. If, like, the shadows on his face weren't also super black and grey. Like, even his skin looks like it's part of a terrible alligator print trench coat. Maybe that's his mutation. He's become Bad Fashion Man. Okay, a guy made out of, like coat materials would genuinely be terrifying. Oh wait, that's just the nobodies from Kingdom Hearts 2. I really like the nobodies from Kingdom Hearts 2. They were a really good design. I've cut out the random tangent I went on at this point, but I'll recommend to check out the channel Janice Dublin Animation. She's done a really good set of reviews on the animations of the nobodies and the Heartless, and, like, how their animations represent the different personalities of the creatures and everything. Really, really good. Really recommend that. Gonna pop a link for that in the description. And now back to the actual topic. Another really bad part is it doesn't really communicate his personality in any way. He just looks like a guy at an anime convention who isn't even actually cosplaying any character. He's just, like, thrown together everything that he thought might be cool, but by putting it all together it doesn't become cool at all, it just becomes confusing. All I know is my friend Abby linked me a video of some sort of meme of, like, him going, like, here's my super mega monster, and then the main character just, like, bursts out laughing at him and is like, oh, that's pathetic, Wesker.
This is the ultimate life form. Chris? Stop it.
Wesker, you're pitiful.
And, like, I don't know if that's actually, like, real game audio or if it's just a meme in the community, but, like, that kind of makes him a bit more, like, likeable. I don't know, it's weird, like, if he is actually supposed to be a character who, like, his personality, the actual character himself is choosing to, like, dress really over the top, like, really stereotypical idea of what a cool guy looks like, because his personality is some guy who has self-esteem issues, and, like, is actually not very good at being a villain, but, like, I'm really cool, my mummy likes me, and stuff like that. But, like, that's a defining personality, but that's a way that his design might actually reflect that. But I do feel kind of like I am just grasping at straws to find any way to say that this is not terrible. And I just can't do it, I can't do it. Farewell. Popping back in to say, character designs that look more like the final boss of Resident Evil, Dr. Snap. Dr. Snap, Dr. Snap. Snumpy, snappy, snappy, a snoople, snapple, snee. Oh, testing, testing, testing. I test for you and me. I just imagine the entire time Wesker's like, but I'm so cool, guys. You just see Dr. Snap sneaking up behind him and just, like, takes the T-virus, the whatever it's called. Just takes every single mutagen he has in his entire collection, walks off again. Also, for no particular reason, here's a fan art of Dr. Snap. We are all lovely. Missing though from Pokemon. Well, I'm gonna go for immediate friend, but I don't really know how you can review a design like this. It's not technically a design. For people who don't know, I'm sure everyone does know, but like just for context, for anyone who's not familiar with video games, Missing No is a famous glitch from Pokemon, and like the design you see here is literally just a bunch of scrambled, randomized pixels from the game glitching out. But like, it's become so iconic despite like being a total accident of programming. So I would say it's a good design, but like it's not like it was designed. But like for something that's totally random, it became super iconic. So I mean, just by sheer coincidence, it just happens to be like in the shape of a backwards L. And then like all the like really detailed scrunglification inside like such a basic blocky shape. It's a good contrast. Because like it's not just a square block, and it's not like an actual complex character design thing. It's just like in between like basic shape, but not the basic shape you'd expect from this like maximized values on everything. And then just it looks like it's like a complex texture. Like it looks more like an alligator skin jacket than Wesker's actual alligator skin jacket. And like by sheer coincidence, the colours they picked for it, well, not the colours that randomization picked for it, just happened to look pretty good together. Like when I've seen people do fan designs of like what Missing No might look like if it was like a real creature, and like interpreting shapes and designs of it, they always look like iconic and interesting because it has like it's really like bold and strange colour scheme choice. Like just somehow that greyed out purple and that like very palish like reddish orange look really well together. I also like interpretation where like they pick like one cluster of the pixels and like that kind of looks like an eye, and then they end up drawing as like this one-eyed like block creature. Like much as I like reinterpretations and ways to like design the sprite into a genuine Pokemon, there is its own appeal to just a completely scrunglified mix of glitch stuff. Like I just want to hug like this big like mist of like indiscriminate shapes, and then it's just got a cute little eye in the middle, and then just give it a big old hug, and then like you can feed it juice. And I don't have it on hand, but I have a fan art that my friend Demo drew for me of Missing No sipping some juice, and it's just like best. That was like back when we first became like besties. That was just like a great memory. I've actually got fan art of me drawn as a Pokemon professor who like is in charge of a gym full of all glitch Pokemon, and again that was by the same person demo reel system. They are like the best. Like top 10 memories of my entire life. There is this for making me remember the Juice Batman era. Like funny story, that's how we sort of like became closer. It wasn't the first time we ever met, but we became closer friends. It's like I was going through a really tough time in my life. I was like in this like mental hospice type place. Like it's not like how you see in the movies, like stereotypical mental hospitals and all. Like it was just like a shared accommodation with like doctors and like people looking after you and stuff. But it was very tough on me because like they had a lot of rules there that like the government made them do, and then they didn't necessarily want them to do, and there was some stuff that like wasn't so good for people's recovery. Like there was a rule that like heads up, a small warning, I'm going to be talking for the next 3.5 minutes about some experiences of suicidal thoughts I had and some issues with my past. And if you want to skip that, move ahead 3.5 minutes. Sorry for the trouble. The doctor said they had to check through your door like every hour on the hour during the night to check you hadn't committed suicide. Like, heavy topic, I'm really sorry to talk about it, but like, yeah, and for me, I get really paranoid. I have really bad trouble sleeping when I'm sleeping in the same room as someone I'm sleeping. I'm thinking people are watching me because of the stuff that led to the trauma in the first place. A lot of them in phases of privacy when I was living with my dad and like being terrified to like he wouldn't let me have a lock on my door or anything. He broke the door kind of so it wouldn't even close, and basically a lot of fear of like he would come home drunk and then there was no way I could keep him out, and like if he decided he was gonna go looking for his kid and he was gonna like it became hard to like sleep during the sleeping hours, and like any sort of fear, any sort of noise would like in my subconscious sleeping mind it would make me go, oh my god, it's dad coming, even though I'd been free of him for years since then. And like the fact that the doors had to have a window in them and you knew people would be checking in you through that every hour on the hour, and then just like seeing the shadow and the light flashing through the door of like the person who like my rational mind knows that's the doctor, they're here to help you, but like my half asleep mind is gonna freak the heck out and think that's daddy, he's gonna come and kill me. And yeah, it didn't do very well. I don't want to go blabbering on too much about sad stuff, but basically, you get the gist. I was in a very sad time of my life, and I was having trouble adjusting to a new way of living, and like even knowing these people are here, they're trying to help me and everything, it was hard to adjust to. And then I ended up venting to my friends on Tumblr at the time. That was back when I was on Tumblr instead of Twitter, and etc, etc. It was back before I had a YouTube account, I think, actually. It was like everything that was making me sad just built to like a breaking point. I ended up crying about this really minor thing. I didn't have enough money to buy juice because it was like a shared accommodation. They had like a limited stock of like shared food you're allowed to use, and then if you wanted anything like special or treat or anything, you had to buy it with your own money. And like I was crying because like I didn't have like the small amount of change to go out and to like buy some juice, and then like the only thing they had to drink was like watery squash and stuff, and then like just the fact that everything had been building up over the last few days of me struggling to sleep meant I ended up having a stupid crying fit over something as minor as like, oh no, I can't have a juice that I like. And I felt really embarrassed. I felt really ashamed of like when I came down from the moment a bit, I felt really ashamed that I talked to my friends about something so frivolous and stupid, and they must be all laughing at me. But then my friend Demo like responded, and like they were so sweet. They sent me money to go and buy juice, and like I cried so hard, and like I can't remember how the conversation led to it, but I ended up giving them the nickname Juice Batman, and I felt so honoured that was their username for like a really long time afterwards. And anyway, so somehow that ended up with drawing Missing No Drinking a Juice too, and it was nice. It was good that something so bad and awful in my life worked out to end up making me become closer to a friend. And it's all good. And it just shows how much I really, really, really cherish my friends, because like even when like what I'm worrying about seems like so minor and so understandable, like they were still there for me, and they still showed me like empathy, sympathy, and helped. And when you're in a situation like that, when you have no power to correct the actual major problem that's going on, it helps a lot to be able to fix some small minor unrelated problem that's also happening at the same time. It really, really helped, and like I cried while drinking that apple mango juice. Anyway, in conclusion, Missing No is adorable and it always deserves to be drinking juice. Also, I just honestly love like the cosmic representation of what the idea is. Just the idea of there being like a secret extra Pokemon that doesn't exist. It's like some other part of the game code got jealous and wanted to be a friend too. I love the idea of like something scary like a glitch being able to be like personified as like a nice friend, and a friend that's there to help you, and like having its own fandom, having all these people drawing reinterpretations of it and like what its character design could be, and it's good. I love it. Missing No symbolises all that's good about the Pokemon fandom. I love them. And here seems a good place to put in the recaps of the Mist stuff. Okay, first one we have is Old Man from Zelda. Very descriptive name there. Despite the fact that, like, I'm well known for like, really liking funny grandpa characters in video games, this isn't the kind of design I tend to like for them. It's kind of like, even though you're known for really liking something, that doesn't mean you like everything within that thing. Just like if I like really like, I don't know, banana-flavoured milkshakes or something, I'm not going to be like, if you just like throw a manky banana at me, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'll eat it anyway. Not that I'm saying this design is as bad as that, but like it's very similar. A better example would be like, just like if I liked like banana flavoured things, that doesn't necessarily mean that I would be equally as excited to just receive a plain banana. Like, I mean, I might prefer like fruit salads or like recipes with bananas, and I don't actually know, because I don't actually like bananas. I should have made a better metaphor than this. What do they make with bananas? But like, basically what I'm saying is this is a very simple design. I don't have very much to say about it, despite the fact that I do like scrungly funny little grandpa mentor characters. I do have times when I feel guilty that I'm like not liking a character even though he is a little old man, but like, it does just come down to like how commonly overused the design traits are. It does make me think, because I know Zelda is like a really long running series, maybe that was a series where this whole design thing started. The trope of just like, this is what every NPC grandpa will look like. But I really do like the art style this is drawn in. Like, not necessarily the design of the character himself, but I like the way like how scrungly his face is drawn and everything. He just looks so adorable. If you mix like a really cartoony art style with like old-fashioned woodcuts and stuff like that, He's got that energy to him, like every single line is all scrungly, there are no straight lines in this piece. And the combination of like the really cartoony eyes of like the really like overdrawn realistic nose and like fluffy beard stuff, it's cool, he's nice. But he is just like the basic template of a nice grandpa in a video game. And people have iterated upon this and created new grandpas of new and varied types. And I owe him a lot for his service to the great lineage of Grimple Grumps. But also it's a bit weird to me how, like, all wizard mentor character guys in the JRPG tend to, like, wear those kind of robes, where it's like, why is it specifically always, like, really ragged robes, like a really minimalist staff which looks like just a tree branch and not like it was actually carved or anything? Like, I don't really get why the archetype would lead to, like, making the outfit look like, I don't know, like, improvised, like it's a poor person who, like, is just wearing what they had available, rather than a wizard who, like, tailored a fancy coat to represent how powerful he is. Maybe it's supposed to be something like, oh, you can't tell just from his appearance that he's really strong and powerful and a mentor, so therefore it makes him feel more mentorish. Maybe it's like a situation like that, where like it used to be a subversion of tropes, but now because it's become so common, like the original trope it's subverting is not common, it would in fact be a subversion to go back to it. Was there an era where like all mentor wizard characters looked really fancy and then they became unfancy and then it became fancy again? What is the history of Old Man from Zelda? In conclusion, I give this a farewell, but not it's not a knock against you, Old Man from Zelda. I will give you I'll give you a participation medal. Also a hug. Oh, the next one. This one I found really discouraged from losing my footage about them, because this character design is really cool and I had a lot to say about them. So to try and sum it up in less time, because I know I rambled a lot on the Old Man from Zelda. The reason I really like this character design is because I really like when, like, you have a character who has, like, an unusual body type. Like here we have a character who is, like, literally just a cat, like, rather than, like, a Gajinka cat or a humanized cat or anything, it's just a cat. And then, like, they had, like, cool speculative ideas for, like, what clothing would be like for just a cat. I always like that idea where you have like a monster or an animal character or something, and like the person designing it put effort into thinking of like really interesting, unique clothing that they might have if we lived in a world where like that species was as common as anything else. So I love the little pockets for the ears on the head, and especially I really like the detail, but like the sleeves like don't have an opening at the end, they only have slits for the claws to come out. That's just a really cool detail. And also I think when I first saw this, because of other stuff that was in the previous Friend of Well, I went off on a tangent rambling about the Lalafell from Final Fantasy XIV. Well, I really went off on a lot of tangents about MMOs last time, because that species in that game also has like interesting stuff, and like for reference, they're like a species of like everyone is a child, but it's like it's actually drawn looking like everyone is a child, rather than that trope being used for the weirdly common MMO thing of like, oh, they look like sexualized children because they're technically adults but they're children. It's like, no, Lalafell, they just drew it for cuteness and funny value. It's like everyone in this whole species is like 1 foot tall and looks like a toddler. And I'm bringing it up because they're based on like toddlers rather than like older kids, they have a lot of unique animations for like how you would expect like a toddler, really, really small person with like really stubby arms that can't bend very much to be using like ridiculous weapons and stuff like that. That's what this design reminded me of, because obviously a cat, the proportions of a cat are gonna be like at least more similar to like a child with tiny arms than like a regular sized human. So this makes me think like if this character's from a fighting game or something, they probably have like very interesting animations of using that sword, and I would be intrigued in seeing how to do it. And also the implication with those slits with the claws to come out, the implication that they would like both use a sword and use their claws in combination, it makes me think like what sort of interesting fighting moves might they have. Also, I like the style of like how the cat themselves is drawn, like very realistic, except they just have those little cartoon eyes that are like more human-like. I don't know, I just find it interesting how this is clearly like not a humanified character, it's just like a cat, but then they have it balanced out. They have like the very realistic cat-like traits of like the more fantasy like human-like traits of like just how the eyes are drawn, and then how they have like a very detailed costume. And I like the color scheme too, just like the pale cream fur and then like the nice comforting orange color for the coat. It reminds me of like, I don't know, like a soft autumn theme. It makes me think like what's it called, those pumpkin spice lattes or something like that. It's that combination of like creamy, calming colours and then pumpkins. I don't know if this character has any association with Halloween whatsoever, but they seem Halloweeny. I think, at least from her design and stuff, I think they're based on the Nekomata from Japanese folklore, because those are magical cats which have two tails. Man, I'm actually taking longer, like, bringing up these reminders than I am doing first reactions. It's hard to remember what I said the first time. And the last one we have in the re-recordings is Agave from Gems of War, or Agave. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And I really like this design. This is such a creative design idea for a plant person. Because, like, it's not like a human with, like, plant hair or something, but it's also not, like, fully just, like, a plant with a face and stuff. It's this cool combination where, like, you have this very humanoid body and then this very plant-like head. And also, just, like, cactuses don't often get used for, like, plant people like this. I think it is really creative and interesting. Especially the idea of, like, a cactus cowboy that is also a wizard, like, that's just inherently amazing. And I love the design of, like, how their face is completely featureless and just eyes. Like, I don't know why, but that really fits a cactus. Even though, like, obviously in real life cactuses don't have any eyes. I don't know why, but just having eyes, no other facial features, just screams cactus to me. I don't know, when I look at Hitmonlee from Pokemon who has, like, the same eyes, I think that looks like a cactus person. It looks like a cactus person if, like, they lost all their chlorophyll in the war. Which I'm assuming is something that's happening in this game. Again, really liking the mix of, like, calming, creamy colours and then contrasting with, like, a big, bold colour. This one pulls it off a lot better, actually, because it's not, like, a complementary orange, it's, like, a bold, like, contrasting green, but also the contrasting green is, like, a small amount of the picture. Like, it draws your attention immediately to that bold and interesting face design. I also got to really admire how, like, all these really disparate, like, design elements are, like, blended so perfectly together. Like, if you said, like, plant person wizard, you'd probably assume, like, oh, well, the way they got to blend it together is, like, I don't know, they make it all, like, pretty plant person, very delicate, does, like, ye olde mystical spells and stuff like that, wears a big floofy cloak, but no, they blended it in this way that, like, is so creative and unusual, but makes perfect sense when you see it. It's like, cactuses. Who lives around the cactuses? Cowboys. What kind of looks like a cowboy hat? A wizard hat! I love it! Like the wizard cowboy hat combination. And the poncho and everything. It looks really cool. It also seems like a practical choice of outfit for a plant person who's covered in spikes that, like, constantly breaks everything they touch. God, I love that detail the spikes are, like, holding the wizard hat on. I also think that the flowy use of a poncho works really well here, because, like, a cactus, obviously, very spiky, very solid, very angular design, but this design here actually doesn't look very solid and angular. It looks quite flowy, and, like, there's a lot of, like, spikes, but there's also, and there's not spikes, there's also a lot of, like, straight angular lines on, like, the shape of that hat and everything, and the shape of the shoulders, and how the collar puffs up, but then, like, the flowiness of, like, the poncho and the scarf and everything like that. So I think it works really well as, like, having the outfit be, like, a medium between the two sort of, like, halves of the aesthetic here. Because, like, you have a very flowy outfit, but the way it's drawn is very angular, like, in the art style, so it blends its way into, like, the cactusness of the cactus. I don't know, just a lot about this design does really well at, like, you're fundamentally combining two very different things, but everything about this design is so well chosen to make those things really go together. Like, I really love, like, the Galaxy Brain idea of the magic staff being a flowering cactus. And I think it works really well because the flower of a cactus is a colour that isn't present anywhere else in the entire design, so it really draws your eye. Also, honestly, like, big non-binary void aesthetic. And, like, honestly, this design just, like, opens my brain up to all the possibilities. It makes me imagine, like, is the cast of this game just entirely, like, really interesting plant people like this? Like, if this is, like, the equivalent of, like, a spellcaster or a gunslinger for the plants, what sort of amazingly interesting ideas could you get from combining different plants with other really, really confusing, unfitting designs which somehow become so fitting when smashed together? Some sort of, like, fawned rose plant combined with, like, a vampire, like a Nosferatu class which is just, like, rose people with all the fawns and everything, and, like, instead of draining blood, they drain your life energy with the fawns. Maybe subvert everything to hell and back by having, like, we have the cowboy cactus is not a gunslinger, but what if the actual gunslinger was, like, a tomato that, like, shoots tomato-based weaponry through slingshots, like, that old trope of, like, throwing tomatoes at a person in the stocks. Maybe that's what their aesthetic is. Maybe like they have like a collar which looks kind of like the stocks, and like one of their attacks is like maybe like a combination of like a gunslinger and like an enemy movement reducement class or something. Like they can lock you in place by throwing an entire stocks at you, and then they throw tomatoes at you. And the design could be super cool. Like you could make such like if this is a mixture of like mage, cactus, cowboy, you could have like a mixture of like tomato, gunslinger, Frankenstein. Because that's where I was first going. You throw mouldy tomatoes at people, make the character's aesthetic look like a mouldy tomato, make them look like a Frankenstein of like different gourds. Like just the entire concept of like typical video game job classes combined with ridiculously absolutely out of nowhere plant people is amazing, and there's like infinite potential for that. And I hope the entirety of the game is just more of this. But also, if this character was just plumped in the middle of like a regular game full of a cast of regular humans, that would also be incredibly hilarious. Overall, out of the three that out of the three catch-up characters, I think Agave is my favourite. Hello and mini welcome to Friend of Farewell again. Sorry, there's a brief break. There's a brief break in recording the footage here. I'm back like a week later to finish up doing this. Okay, let's go again. Bee and Puppy Cat from Bee and Puppy Cat. Not necessarily a design I like particularly, but I really do like the art style. It's very floofy, and I love that kind of like stylizing like hair shapes into like just one big cloud-like blob rather than like drawing every single strand and everything. I remember before this show came out, I was like quite excited about it because of the art style, and I ended up just finding like the story style and everything, it just wasn't my kind of thing. But I really do love his art style. I hope that the person who creates it is like have a load of success. People who do prefer that kind of show like ended up liking it a lot. I can't say much about the design of Bee herself. I do like the design of Puppy Cat. Like that's just such a good little scrunchy critter. I love its face. It's like a little grumpy snowman with eyebrows. And then like the colour scheme is like Neapolitan ice cream, and I love a good design where it's just like we've taken like a real animal and we're gonna like stylize it to be like a monster that just like looks like that animal, kind of like, you know, a jail cat from Dragon Quest. Like you can see how that's not a cat, that's like a monster that like is shaped like a cat and like wants to be a cat. I like that kind of design. Like Nyanko from what's it called, Natsumi's Book of Friends. Like, again, another design where, like, it's a monster that is not a cat, but it's trying to be a cat. And I like that kind of aesthetic. I like that aesthetic where, like, instead of, like, just making a monster who is just playing that animal with some accessories thrown on, like, you make a monster which looks like that animal, but, like, it looks like someone trying to draw that animal with no knowledge of what the animal is, based entirely on descriptions, and it's a really endearing kind of appearance. But also, I don't understand why Puppy Cat is called Puppy Cat, because, like there's literally no puppy traits in its design whatsoever. It does not look in any way like a combination of a cat and a dog. It just looks like a cat, but, like, a snowman cat. But yeah, cannot say much about the design itself, just the art style. Really love the art style. And look, I kind of want to draw fan art of, like, my favourite characters from other things in this art style. I wonder if there's any guides on the internet to learn how to draw it. That would be neat. I think this is the shortest review so far in like all of Friend of Farewell history. Nuriko from Fushigi Yugi. I don't know who this character is, and I'm not sure what their pronouns are. This is a nice androgynous character design, so I'm just be going with they them for now, as I don't have any context of who this character is or what pronouns they actually use. Please correct me in the comments if I've mistaken this. Sadly, not a character design I have very much to say about. This does just seem like a nice person who is like supposed to be attractive, I guess. And the design, the colours are a bit like high contrast on the outfit, and then they don't really necessarily go together too well to me. They kind of look like a holly wreath. And then we've got like kind of a mix of like eclectic, like different styles of like traditional clothing from different countries. Like you have like that kind of braid I've seen a lot on like Chinese and Japanese characters, like martial artists, and like the upper top of the outfit seems to also be like some sort of like a martial arts outfit. I would say looks kind of more Chinese. And the bottom of the outfit is like a floofy toga type thing, so like Romanish. And then you have like also like those Nordic type the woolen bands on the outside of clothes. But then instead of like how they usually use like keep your boots on in the snow, instead of that they're just like they're tying nothing onto the clothes. And then we have like little like modern style like shoes. So yeah, not really much to say about this design. A lot of design elements here that don't seem to necessarily go together too well to me. I do like their design in the sense of the androgyny. Like, you have like a masculine upper half and then like a feminine like floofy lower half, and then you have like short hair combined with a long ponytail. Looks very nice. Like, in terms of like non-binary gender envy, yeah, but in terms of like actual choices for the color scheme of the design, kinda no. If you're a fan of this character though, you have good taste. I just do not have that good taste also. Sorry for the little wait there. I actually had to like go into the dock and spend a little while like editing the size of this image to be able to fit it on screen. And like, wow, thank you for the really high resolution image whoever submitted this character. Now this is a character I can scream friend to the heavens about, like, oh my gosh. I have not played this game, but I have actually seen this character before, and like, I wanted to buy this game entirely for this character. I don't know anything about the game, I don't know if he's like a prominent character or anything. I ended up not impulse buying that game based entirely on one character, I don't know about it. But like, oh, I love him, he looks so cute and adorable. Like, as a lot of people will know, I really like grumpy grandpa mad scientist type characters, and like, it is quite infrequent to find like a younger mad scientist character who doesn't like go for like, because he's younger I'm gonna be like make the character very sexualized or something like that. It is very weird. I like the only times you have seen tend to see like a playable like mad scientist character tends to be like a young female one who like doesn't really have many design traits that really hint at being a mad scientist at all. And it is more like your personality still has a personality and everything, but like the design appearance tends to be like because the character is playable, we have to make them like more generic to appeal to people. Like, that's just the point. It's like I want a playable mad scientist because I like mad scientists. I don't want a playable mad scientist because I like other things, and I just want to like make a mad scientist not be a mad scientist as soon as it appears in like the main. So I like this design. Like, it combines. Does a good job combining. Like, here we have like an attractive anime man with also keeping design traits for mad scientists. Like, I like how his hair is all floofy floofles. I really like that. It's like a weeping willow for a hair. I love. Oh, as far as like Mark McBride is the character's name, according to me, and Atelier Tutori is the game. I really like how his color scheme is really good. It's like you got like the regular like lab coat colors, of course, and then like I like how like all of his colors like different shades of like the saturated kind of like rosy pinkish brown, and like it looks really good. And he's got little funny leg warmers. It's really cute and cozy. Like, everything about his design just like radiates cozy friend. Like, they really did just like take a mad scientist and like let's just like immediately clarify through his design that this is a friendly scientist, like just as mad but 0% as evil, and I love him. And I really like the design coherence, because it's like all of his design is like shades of the same like pale brownish color, like almost grayish brown for his hair. I do like that, because like again, like most mad scientists tend to be like grandpas and stuff. And I like how they've given him a bit of the grandpa energy despite being nowhere near that age range at all. And then they've taken that, they've kind of extrapolated out, and then like every part of his outfit except the coat is all like different shades of the same colour as his hair. Like, his hair and his eyes and his outfit are all the same colour, and it really helps to highlight like the mad scientist coat, because it is the only thing that's a really big standout colour. I find that interesting how in this design, like, instead of like white being the baseline with other things to be the highlights on it, it's like white is the highlight, the thing that it's really drawing its eye to. I guess I really like the usage of unusual colours like that. Like, we're dancing in the air between like pale lilac and brown, and it's really good. And also, I love how this seems to work for like a mad scientist in more like a fantasy setting. Like, he's wearing like a ye old fantasy tunic, and like he's got this belt of like very like simple type building tools and stuff like that, rather than like the more complex science you would expect like a sci-fi mad scientist. Like, even his coat can kind of be read as like it's not like a standardized lab coat. It's more like just a fashion coat that exists in this universe, which has been like coincidentally in a similar style to like what lab coats look like nowadays. Because like if you zoom in and you look close, like the little grey lines on it, they're covered in like fantasy type patterns, and like it does work really well. Like, you've combined like a lab coat with like a fantasy coat, but not in a way where like the lab coat part is like less visible. Because much as I like Dr. Snap, his design, it's kind of hard to tell he's a mad scientist at first, because like his like fantasy style lab coat, they changed the colour of it and everything. It just does look kind of like a regal kingly coat. It kind of goes a bit too far on the fantasy side, a little less on the mad scientist side. But back to this character, which I love a lot. I also like how his glasses are little, and like it feels like another way of like him being like a little mad scientist. It's like he's also got tiny glasses rather than like big Coke bottle glasses. And I love it. I really love the floof. I really love the floofy hair. I really, really like it. I really love it. He's like a Tangler. He's like Terry the Tangler. He looks like Brian David Gilbert. That's what he looks like. Oh my god. Brian's Terry, like, reincarnated into the Atelier universe. That's the happy ending to that story. I also love how like, he's got this sense of, like gentle elegance to him. Like his pose is kind of like a ballerina just like gently coming down, like a fairy ballerina gently coming down and touching on the stage with like 1 foot, and then he's got these pointy shoes that go with it, and all his colours are very like ethereal too. Like this kind of colour scheme and that kind of like fantasy tunic, you would like kind of expect like a Shakespearean fairy type character, and it's really good. Like there is so much about this design that like subtly communicates like this is supposed to be like amorbition and like attractive to people who like attractive people type mad scientist, but nothing is like no mad scientistness is lost by like the addition of all of that. They didn't make him like generic just by making him attractive. They didn't make him like unfitting for his archetype just by making him attractive. They made him attractive, and he's also a mad scientist, and like all of us are happy. I'm happy. The people who like sex are happy. The Tanglers are happy. The people who like leg warmers are happy. The people who appreciate Polygon celebrity Brian David Gilbert are happy. We are all love him. We are all cherish he. Also, I appreciate this is a design where we have like lots of little tiny details and little tiny patterns, but like unlike the Final Fantasy XIV designs, they don't like do it too over the top to the point where it distracts from the whole thing. Like you can see that there are big like chunks of design here where it's all just like one color, and then like when you have the little bits of little details, they're spaced out a lot. And it's like there is a lot of space and shape, and like also the little details are like drawn in such a way that like you wouldn't notice them just by glancing over the design, rather than them being like so noticeable that you can't notice the design itself underneath the patterns, if that makes any sense. Because like when you're first looking at it, you don't even notice that there's like a pattern on the little stripes. Also, I like the level of attention to detail that went to like putting like the practical things like a mad scientist would probably carry if a mad scientist was going on like adventures in the world. Like he's got like a big old chunky backpack, and he's got a like really well drawn waist, what you call it? It's called a fanny pack in America. It's called a bum bag in Britain. And I just find that funny. I'm just a random bit of trivia for you in the audience. But it's like the extreme bum bag. It's like 3 bum bags put together like a massive like heavy duty belt, and like it's cool. You can tell lots and lots of thought were put into like making this a practical design, but making a practical design while also keeping like big fancy awesome flourishes and like signs of personality and everything. They didn't like either go all practical to the point of being boring and like too realistic, or all crazy to the point of like not making any sense of like how clothing works and stuff. Like so much about this design is really good, and I'm really gushing about it. I've probably talked way too long about it. I'm so sorry. Damn, I'm really tempted to like impulse buy this game now just because. Is he a playable character, guys? I'm assuming from his design he's meant to be like a dateable character, because like so much about his design just like screams like a Tome game romanceable dude. But like I want to play this game and like exclusively pick this guy's route like for everything, and like erase from my mind the existence of any other options. Also, just to add, I really like legitimately admire like how realistically they drew like him wearing like the gloves, the sort of like the specific gloves that you wear with like a hazmat suit, where like they seal over the edges to like vacuum pack the suit so like nothing can get in. Like literally like a few weeks ago I was like trying desperately to find references for how to draw that in a more cartoony art style, because like I'm currently planning out a video game idea which may or may not ever happen depending on my skill level, where it was like it's gonna be like a Tamagotchi but like with a little baby lab experiment, and like I decided that it would be cute if like the status screen was like your mad scientist like holding the little baby monster lab experiment in the hand, but that means I would be required to learn how to draw like a proper like hazmat suit arm, and that's been really troubling for me, because like I can find references of like a realistic one, but like how do I stylize this into like a very cartoony art style like what I have? So like I really admire how he managed to do it. Like this art style like is really good. It's like it's anime, it's like partly realistic, it's all really good, and like they make it all work together. Like there are parts of the design that like are more realistic than the others, but again it's like like I was saying, they're spaced out. It's not like it's all just like scrunched in, and like it's drawing attention to how inconsistent it is. It's like the items he has are like more realistic than like his face and stuff, but like the fact that they're all spaced out, it makes it not draw to the eye too much. Anyway, I'm gonna take a screenshot of that specific arm and I'm gonna try and learn how to draw that. This is like not only a great design, but also like legitimately helped me with my art. Like, oh my god. Like, you learn so much about colour theory, like how to draw realistic backpacks and like everything. I've gushed way too much about Mark McBride from Atlas Tutori, so I need to move. I'm lying. I'm not gonna move on. I'm gonna go Google images of him. I'm gonna like find out if he is like... I'm gonna find out if he is like a wifeable man. The exceedingly exceptional genius super scientist Professor McBride! Yes! Is he playable? Is he playable? It says battle, does that mean he's a boss or he's actually a player? He has an ending! Okay, that's good. I'm not going to click on that because I don't want to spoil myself for the game, but just knowing he has an ending, like, good. This man is indeed a someone who can be the love interest. Like, presumably either a love interest or a friendship ending, either is fine with me, obviously, because, like, me personally, not really getting the love or anything, but like just the idea of like him having a ending, him having a route where like he is the most important character of our protagonist. That is very correct and true, and should be the only way it should ever be. Look at how scrumptious his hair is. It's all screw. This man is like an entire Christmas wreath. Look at him. Look at complicated designs. It's like, oh my god, there's even more bum bags on it than I ever thought. This man is a superior ass. I also find it interesting how his concept art shows like loads of like smudges and stuff on his lab coat, but like the art, the full art we saw before didn't have that. So I wonder if that's just like a difference between like the concept that was removed for the final game, or if it actually is like some sort of like reactive engine process in the game where like his coat starts off clean and then like depending on like the battles you'll get like actual like battle damage on it. That'd be interesting. It's like I feel like the concept of battle damage in video games doesn't get done good enough. Like it's so rare to find a video game which actually has it literally be like battle damage, rather than like people who go like battle damage system to mean like specifically like sexy parts of the outfit will fall off and nothing else. Like you'll never see like scars or like mud or whatever, or like an armored character having their armor get cracked or something. Like there's so many interesting ways you could do that. Like if you had a character who was like a rock person, and then like their battle damage was like having cracks forming them which like glow inside and expose their like inner core or something, that'd be so cool. But instead it's just like, hey booby time, and I'm like, there are so many other ways you could have hey booby time if you want hey booby time. You don't need to like make up a whole new emergent gameplay system for booby time. Oh yeah, he does in game have the muddy smudge on it. Yes you are, Mark, yes you are. You absolutely 100% are. Don't you go sighing, he's 100% correct. See, even the game interface agrees. Even interface, no. Ooh, beta designs for Mark. Ooh, I like. Somebody I actually like a little bit more than the one we have in Final. Like, I like this one where his hair is like tucked back in a ponytail. I don't know why, but I really like the aesthetic of like ponytails on like floofy curly hair. I think that always looks really nice. Also, I find this pose interesting because of just like him having a mechanical arm like that is like really cool. From what I've seen, it seems like he does canonically still have it, and it just comes out of his backpack. It's just like they changed it, like most of the time it's like it's not visible on his design. It only comes out during battle, which is a shame because I think these poses like they do really well at like showing like how the mechanical arm can be used really well in a pose. Shame you don't have a higher resolution of these to see more details. But I like this one in particular because like how the pose goes, and like how you have like his pose, you have his hair, and then you have like his backpack strap, and you have it going down, you have the hand by here. It kind of almost makes it look like the whole hand is like a ponytail. Obviously it isn't, it's clear it isn't, but like the composition of the pose makes it like thematically look like that, and it makes it look really cool to the eye. Also, I find it interesting how they went back and forth on whether it would actually be coming out of a backpack or whether it would actually be attached to his arm. I do find it kind of like cosmically funny in its own way when it's just attached to the arm, because it is like in that way it's kind of like pointless. It's like I've just made my arm be longer, whereas like having it in a backpack makes sense because like there's like more of a practical purpose for having like a grippy arm that can like pick up things like in a different direction from the one that where your hands can also just regularly pick up a thing. Like, if you have it in your backpack, you could have a situation where, like you could, like, climb down a cliff by, like, having the hand grip onto, like, a log or something and, like, lower you down. There's loads of cool, interesting animations you could do with that. I feel like I kind of like this different, way of drawing the curly hair, in its own way. I wouldn't say I like it better or that I like the final version better. I like them like differently in different interesting ways. Like here you have like upwards curly and here you have like downwards curly, and they both look really interesting. I do feel like maybe the downwards curly like suits his personality better because he does seem to be like just like a typical like silly scientist, whereas the upwards curly seems to be like, I don't know, that portrays like more like confidence. I guess it's just because like it makes me think of like a grandma businesswoman with like those really powerful wide 80s shoulders. So that makes me feel like a really confident character who is like not necessarily like smart but like smug rather than just like smart but like shy and stuff like that. Also interesting here is one of him with like having like a more varied, like less cliche anime boy face like that. I do like that, but it does make me think of John from Garfield. And like that's not really an association that you want to put together with your sexy boy, so I do understand why that was changed. But who knows, maybe someone out there thinks John from Garfield is a waifu. He's definitely a scrungly at least. Also I find it interesting how this first one here looks kind of like Jade from Tales of Abyss, but like a less of a mage version, more of a fighter version. Also, this one over here, I really like the design, even though it has nothing to do with, like, a mad scientist, like, at all. This just looks like a pirate captain. Also, no clue who this guy is. I'm glad they didn't go with this design, because this does kind of seem like what would be expected for, like, here's a mad scientist but sexified, so we've, like, removed every mad scientist trait for him, except that he's holding some sort of, like, science weapon. There are way too many games which, like, just approach this subject in that way. So I'm glad that they went and they revised the idea. They managed to make a good balance between being a sexy guy and being a mad scientist guy, and like being a scrungly hair man, and like the only suggestion I would say is keep the idea of like having the big old arm always be out and always be like a cool part of his design. Also, if possible, have like this face shape, but it's like change around like the size of a nose and like the placement of stuff like that to make it not look like exactly how they draw John Arbuckle in like the really old Garfield comics. Let's all look at the faces of he! This one here, I want to make him always smile and happy all day. Here he is, smile and be happy all day. Because robots! Now, I think this is actually his romance ending CG, and if so, that's like the funniest and like most in character way of doing it ever. In conclusion, really like this dude, really being tempted to like play a game which I have no interest in just because this dude is in it. Let's just give him a friend above friend.